There's a video going around by a person who's vaccine denier and a person who makes a bunch of assertions that are along the lines of viruses cannot infect you, and then comes up with basically an assertion that you have to be injected with a virus, which doesn't make any sense because virtually all viruses are transmitted by whatever medium they are transmitted by or in whatever way they are. I'm going to bring up a couple of examples of disease or life or non-life transfer. The presumption about this is a set of suppositions or assumptions that only living things can transport. Only certain things can do certain things, and that's fine. Okay, let's address this really quickly. Fungus releases spores. The spores themselves are not necessarily the fungus. Let's do that idea. It transfers by having a puffball being kicked or being hit by a droplet of water, some external action or not. It can release pollen. You can get that from plants. These things, these materials that are used by these creatures, by these living things or non-living things at this point, depending on how you look at the definition of it, are released into some medium. It can be water in the ocean. It can be air in the air. That's how shit works. To prove me wrong. Now, and the idea here is that you can't possibly have something that would be considered a contagion, or more accurately to the virus's point of view, a way of reproducing itself as almost a living thing but not quite. Can't happen because you've decided it can't happen through the air or whatever. And then coming up with the presumption has to be injected. This is the assertion by somebody who posted this on the internet. And then he made up some other bullshit. It doesn't matter. His supposition is based on germ denial. Germ theory denial is based on the idea that you are going to disprove diseases exist because you're going to sell your snake oil. That's actually where this comes from. There was actual real resistance to the idea of the germ theory concept because it didn't make any sense at the time to people, because they were only seeing their forest for their trees and that sort of thing, their biases. Everybody a hammer, so everything had to be a nail kind of attitude. Anything that fell outside of their ability to do anything about disease, they would reject inherently. People at one time rejected the idea that you should wash your hands before performing surgery for several reasons, including just a belief that nothing that they could have on their hands could transfer the disease from one person to another, because in their opinion, and this is a good one, is that would be like guilt by association. It didn't make any sense until someone went ahead and was able to demonstrate this real thing. And I want to remind everybody that, oddly enough, and this is something that's ironically used by another group of reality deniers, one of the first diseases, if not the first disease that was ever figured out to what really caused it, was scabies. The skin condition, scabies, was found to be caused by a very, very tiny but not microscopic mite that tunneled in under your skin, laid eggs, and left a trail of fecal material behind it underneath the skin while it would eat through the skin and reproduce. That's scabies. The original name for it was given whatever name it was in the area it was in, the conditions of the people from this area, including Morgellons, which is literally what Morgellons referred to. The original Morgellons was scabies. And this is very well recorded in history. Feeling itchy yet? And it's ironic that one of the first examples of the scientific method and science-based medicine finding not only the cause for something, but the cure for something, and making it to where it was an unambiguous, no guesswork moment, would be used as Morgellons, the new, well, not so new, bullshit illness that people say is mysterious, we can't solve it, it must be caused by, name that bullshit story. On one end of the spectrum, you have just fucking crazy talk, bullshit. And on the other end, you have people saying, I don't know what's causing this. I'm not going to make an assumption. I'm going to determine it. And the first example is still used as the worst example, Morgellons. Morgellons was the name for the area that the first scabies cases were diagnosed and found, and one of the first. And there was a person there, a different doctor, who didn't know what was causing it and decided to make it about something else. Ironically, again, this is one of the first examples of medicine determining what really is causing a disease and how to treat it, or at least what to start with. Or pour tapioca pudding on yourself and call it a win. So we get someone these days claiming your government is lying to you about what's causing the disease because viruses don't work the way you've been told. And this is also a germ theory denier that says even bacteria doesn't do those things. None of these are caused by that. And you get everybody claiming things like the disease is really sloughing of something else. So their pet theory gets roped into every disease every year. There's another person who's claiming that it can't be viruses, it has to be his preferred method. Another one is anytime a cancer gets discussed, someone will post a story about cancer only being a fungus, not caused by fungus, but being a fungus. You'll find all of these not backed on reality, no evidence-based bullshit posted on the internet. Okay? That's the reality of the situation. If you're not aware of that, that's fine, but that's really what's going on here. We have a shit ton of evidence to tell us what is causing everything. We're not an ignorant population that you can scare into believing in some boogeyman, right? Well, a lot of people are burning down 5G or just telephone towers or just random telephone poles in certain countries because they've been lied to. This is about depopulation and killing us. Right. But somehow it's extremely effective, but only specifically for whatever your group is that you feel that you're part of that's being targeted. Somehow the radio signals know the difference between one person's belief system and another, or the political affiliation, or skin color, or something. That's how radio works. All right? So none of this actually makes any sense unless you have a persecution complex, or you need one, so that you can make yourself somehow at least being paid attention to by the devil. Please prove what you're saying, says a random bird name person. The reality is not about YouTube posting. It's about facts. All right. The person is claiming that viruses don't cause disease, and also, if you look up the rest of his statements, that bacteria doesn't cause disease. And his assertion is viruses basically can't do anything. But somehow they exist, and we paid attention to them, but they don't cause diseases. And it's either a big mistake for 100 years or something like that of treating just disease in general, or B, a deliberate lie about what's really causing it because they want you to stay sick so they can make money off of you. That's the conspiracy theory about it, okay? But what about the vast majority of people who can't afford to go into your big pharma medicine and never get treatment? If you were trying to get as much money as possible out of the people in the country, you'd create a multi-tiered medical system to where really poor people could come in for your medical treatments that are completely phony. That's the claim, that all medicine is phony. Because you have to go there because all medicine says you're wrong about something, so you have to go after them. And we would have affordable medication and affordable medicine and affordable health care. We don't. So they're missing out, if you're not aware of it. If you cut out the bottom population, you're cutting out 90% of your profits. Ask anybody who's running a retail outlet. You have to appeal to the cheapest people in the whole population because they don't have any money. So let's make cancer treatment insanely expensive, prohibitively expensive, and exclude a majority of people we could make money off of. Even if it's penny ante, you get the ante. If you deny him, do that with real and certified info. I did, and the person I'm referring to has no certified information and has no data. You're demanding I be held to a higher standard than the asshole I'm debunking. Published and widely spoken. Widely spoken? That's not how reality works in science. It's published and then debunked. Something has to survive some penny ante bullshit like me debunking it. Peer-reviewed is supposed to be based on it being reviewed and adversarially tested. In this video, you only said he's lying. I'm saying he's lying because his assertions are based on him wanting everybody to believe what he believes. He's not saying what it is. And he's not saying that he's a germ theory denialist or truther. Why you should be believed. Thank you for your broken English. You don't have to believe me. I give all my certifications, or more accurately, all my citations below in the video. It's called history. And again, human beings have been able to figure out diseases which at one time were considered plagues brought by God. They're not. They're diseases. They happen because of reasons. And the coronavirus happened because it's a fucking virus. So what do you do to head off that so that you can keep pushing us back to not just the dark ages, but the fucking Stone Age. You get rid of any fact that gets in the way of you selling your health food vitamin business bullshit. And the majority of people who do this are shills for that kind of shit. They don't provide any efficacy, and sometimes they're even unsafe. And the person's basically telling you, don't believe the people who are trying to save your lives. Don't believe anybody out there who actually makes money every once in a while, and fairly good money, selling you stuff that might work. I'm going to give you a really good example. There's a bunch of practitioners, or whatever you want to call them, that would treat me for my arm injury here, which is a specific muscle that's been strained in some way that I don't know. For me, it's a mystery how I damaged my arm. And none of you have ever had gotten injured and didn't know how you did it. If you've worked for a living, you've injured yourself and not known which one of the hundreds of things per day that could have hurt you that day because you did something wrong or because something fell down and you picked it up or tried to catch it. That's probably what happened here. I probably dropped something, tried to catch it, and didn't realize I'd strained a muscle. It can happen. And in this case, it's been going on for weeks from one muscle, and now this one is the one that's last to heal. This one healed faster. I could go to a muscle therapy person, or I could go to a soothsayer, or I could go to a back cracker, aka a chiropractor. A chiropractor would have actual real usefulness here, because if this is a pinched nerve, the chiropractor would actually be able to fix it, because that's all they're supposed to be able to do. They're supposed to keep things in alignment and then correct it if you have a pinched nerve, because it does happen. In this case, this is the area you'd probably have it in, and it has some of those characteristics, but it is just the muscle. Or I could go to a doctor, and it would cost a lot of money to get the same exam that gives me the same result, or went to a free clinic and got the answer, or just asked a random doctor that, on the net. You can do these things. Or I could do a simple test, which is also what I did. I did several things. I didn't just one. I took a ibuprofen versus acetaminophen, or a Tylenol versus, whatever test. I tested the effects of different painkillers and what the muscle did. I've done this before because I have had to. And I was able to determine that the pain, if I could make it go away, I could still induce it by moving one muscle, so it was that muscle. I then tried moving every other muscle while monitoring this one to where it isn't moving. I can kind of shut off the reaction of that muscle. And I'm actually using right now that muscle, but not in a specific direction, because it has subgroups of muscles in it. It's not just this muscle. It's a piece of muscle in the muscle group. And when I tested that, I could narrow it down to one muscle. So I looked up all the arm movements that don't involve it, while having a painkiller to keep it from being really painful, for two reasons. When the muscle did produce pain, it would then react to its own pain by flexing. Sort of like if you burn your hand, you pull your hand away really suddenly, you don't even control it. You might even hit yourself in the face like I just did, a reflex reaction. Well, what if the pain from here actually triggered something up here? You'd be triggering pain and causing it, maybe. In the case of a spasming muscle, it's stuck in a freaking loop. So turning off the pain might turn that off. Reducing the swelling, ibuprofen, may not. So I did a simple differential test. If I could deaden the nerve response for pain, but not slow down the muscle contraction, would it go away? And it did. That means it's a spasm. Now, this is a really shitty way of testing it, but it involves me using big pharma and over-the-counter medications that are cheap, $2 a bag, and it worked. It matters that it works. Or on the other end, we have somebody saying, virus is a lie, which accomplishes nothing, and doesn't give us an alternative explanation that works. And we're seeing that a lot. This has brought out I'm going to call it, the non-conservative truther movement people. There are a bunch of people who self-identify as liberals, and maybe attack helicopters, who believe in this shit, who promote it. I even have friends that will repeat this crap. And then when you ask them to, cite an actual citation or study, they bring up people who won't let you critique them, won't let you debunk them, and won't let you run them through peer review. So to answer your question, it is about reality and facts, and I present them, and this asshole did not. He's a liar because he's taking advantage of the situation, probably promoting his own shit, and more importantly, he's endangering people by giving them a scapegoat. I'll just decide I'm going to click my heels and not believe that there's a virus going around that can kill my relatives. That's not accomplishing anything. It's counterproductive, and I don't have to fucking go any further than this. The other person is making a fantastic claim and won't back it up with facts, and the facts you're willing to take are very biased towards them. You don't accept my information that was written below in the description and the citations because you don't want to. You have two different standards for proof. Fuck you.